golfers. Mike DeRoe, Director of Golf at Quail Creek Country Club. Today we're going to explore that word that no one even likes to say, shank. We're going to help you fix it. We're going to help you diagnose it and fix it. So, the shank, the Australian pitch out, the bumbling shot, the shot that brings dread into everyone's heart. Okay, so first of all, when you shank a ball, you've got to know that you didn't shank it because the face was open. 99% of shanks hit this hosel right here, the shank of the club. And when it hits that, it glances that way. As you can see from this impact decal, if you've been hitting the ball in here, you are very close to getting a shank at any moment. This would be a little better dispersion. You're hitting the ball a little more around here. You have a little room for air. So if you're hitting it here and you do one of these 5 things that we're going to show that can cause a shank, you can see that the ball might move from a fairly good shot to a touching the hosel and going that way, hosel rocket to the right. Okay, so you got to diagnose your shank, and you got to say, don't panic. You're pretty close to making a good swing maybe. So just figure out what's going wrong, do one of these drills and fix your shank and get back to golfing with a smile. All right, so here's what causes the shanks. Okay, you're trying to fix your shank, go to like an 8 iron or 7 iron, 6 iron, any one of those clubs. Okay, with the poorer players, the #1 cause of hitting a shank is the club goes back and then the club comes over the top, and you can see it now, it's way out there, and it'll hit that box on the way down. So it's an outside to in path, a little too dramatic, a little bit of that. Okay, and it goes out there and you go, well, how do you fix this? Well, you've got to learn to come from the inside and miss that box. You got to be able to hit a shot like that. Okay, and miss the box. Okay, over the top swings are usually caused by shoulders moving before any kind of hip slide, any drop. Players will say you've got to learn to drop the club or wait, retain the angle. But what we have to do is get the club to not go way out away from you. This would be a separation of arms and body and throwing the club. Okay, so, but what do good players do, or better players? A lot of them actually do this. Their club gets too far behind them. It can either get too far from the beginning, and their club will go out and it'll hit the box after the ball, so they're too into out. And so their club runs into the ball because it's going too dramatically into out. A lot of times they'll actually go back pretty good, and then they'll make a dropping move. And so the club was on playing here, and they'll drop it behind, and now it's this is where it should be, and it gets behind them, so the club runs out into the box. Okay, so you can use a box. A lot of good players don't have a box with them, so they'll put a head cover there, and you can put your head cover there, so if you come over the top, you're going to hit a head cover, so you can do that. A good method to do this with, it might be 3 tees. I'm going to put 3 tees here, an orange one there, and a white one there. And on a good swing, you should be able to go between there and not hit those other 2 tees. A bad swing, of course, over the top's going to catch the orange tee. Into out, might get through there. But what you want to do is come on down, hit the ball, and then catch that white tee on the way out. And that's going to be one of the fixes. You need to fix your shank. Your hands can't come way in here. They're going to come down. Well, I guess you got to diagnose. If you're an in to outer and your arms are separating over here, your hands have to come down and go left with you after impact. If you're an out to inner, your hands have to drop in here and then go out. That's why the shank confuses too many people, because there's 2 different ways to do it. Really good players can actually shank. This one's really hard to diagnose because it comes from really good players. Their club goes up, drops down in really good plane, but they're trying to retain that angle. And then right from here, they try to flick the club out to get it square, and they have to flick a little, and then it runs into the box because of the late trying to square the club. Those players that try to do that have to not throw the club out like that. They have to kind of turn it down. And so they say to do this. Try to turn your right hand down and the back of your left hand down so that it doesn't flick out. I think you can see that, but that one's like 1 in 100. Mostly it's path problems. Path being out or path being too far in. there is the obvious way how you could hit a shank, and that is you're just standing too close to the ball. So your hands are just too close to you, and when you swing, you just need some room. Okay, so that would just be, come on, back away from the ball a little bit. That would make sense. However, watch out for that as your fix, because the mind is powerful, and if you back away from the ball, your brain will tell you need to go further out to hit the ball, and you might actually accentuate the problem. So watch out for trying to get back away from the ball. In fact, here's one of the neatest cures that will almost drive you crazy, and it's well, the fact that it's contrary to what the mind would think. So Fuzzy Zeller and a couple good players on the tour put the ball on the hosel. It's called the hosel toe fix. You put the ball on the hosel, you swing back, and you try to hit the ball on the toe. So you place it there, hit it there. Now, what is that doing for you? It's telling you you'd better bring your arms in closer when you hit the ball. Okay? And just by thinking that, you're going to make a swing that comes in closer to you on the way down instead of farther away from you. So it's called you put the ball in the hosel, hit it on the toe. Contrary to what your brain would think would work, but it actually will. There is one other way to shank, and that's just coming out of posture. And I'll show you that. If you swing back and you're coming down and your hips do this, if your hips go forward, your arms won't have any room, and they will run into the ball. So a lot of players that try to hit it too hard will do this kind of posture thrust, and their hips will go in. You'll see it in this way. My backside is touching this club. If I come down and thrust forward, I'll get way off of that club, and my hands will get run into the ball. Okay? So that posture change problem is that you want to do this in golf. Your right hip goes back, and as you come down, you need your left hip to go left. So it's kind of like staying behind this line instead of bumping into that. That's kind of my favorite move that I don't like to do, and that is this move where my hips go forward. Okay, so to encapsulate, you've shanked one. You hit it off of this hosel. You need to get your arms closer. Do you believe it was an outside-in shank? Was it an inside-out shank? And then once you determine that, by the way, get some of these stickers. You'll see where you're hitting the ball on the club face. They cost pennies, and you'll learn a lot about your club face. But once you've determined whether it was an outside in, by the way, this hip thrust will be an inside out problem. Nobody comes over the top and thrusts their hips. It's an impossibility. So it would be a good player that got the club a little inside, the hips went forward, and the club gets run into the ball. Okay, so what you want is a club that comes from, even with your hands, out to the ball, and then back left after impact. And if you can do that, okay, so did we solve it for you? Hopefully we'll help you analyze it and then get some help to solve it. But at least it won't be like, I don't know what's going on, Shank. So good luck in fixing that dreaded shot.